Hello, 7th graders. Chapter 2 is going to be on multiplying and dividing integers. We'll start out with 2.1 on multiplying integers. Let's get started. All right, to get us ready before we introduce negatives, we're going to review a little bit with just some multiplication. So pause the video, see how long it takes you to complete numbers 1 through 8 at the top there. Just some multiplication review. Ready? Go. All right, check your answers, see how many you got right. Hopefully you completed that in less than a minute. No pressure if you didn't. Let's review some division now. Pause the video, complete numbers 9 through 16. Ready, go. All right, check your answers, see how many you got right. Hopefully that one took you less than a minute as well. All right, last bit of review before we start our new topics. Numbers 17 through 22 at the bottom here are going to review the order of operations. Remember that is parentheses first, exponent second, addition and subtraction next, multiplication and division last. So I'm going to write PEMDAS here. Some of you may have also learned this as GEMDAS with G instead of P. That G stands for a grouping symbol. Absolute value, fraction bars, brackets, those are also grouping symbols, which would take place at the same time as the parentheses. All right, pause the video, see if you can do numbers 17 through 22. Ready, go. All right, these ones were just a little bit trickier. 17, you started with 8 divided by 2, which is 4, so got your answer of 16. 18, you started with the 4 plus 3, which is 7, and then times 2, which is 14, so your final answer is 1. 19, you had to do 8 minus 5, which is 3, then square it and get 9, then do the subtraction, so your final answer is 9. 20, you had to do the multiplication first, so 6 plus 21 minus 5 is 22. 21, you started with the 2 squared, which is 4, then added 3, which is 7, then squared that, which is 49, then had to multiply by 2, which is 98, then add 9 for a final answer of 107. And the very last one, start with that multiplication and division. Remember, if it's multiplication and division or addition and subtraction, we work left to right. So you had 4 times 3, which is 12, divided by 2, which is 6. Final answer of 5. All right, let's take a minute to visualize our vocabulary. We are going to use the word bank at the top right, the words with a check mark next to it, and we're going to fit it into these 4 boxes surrounding multiplying and dividing whole numbers. All right, so let's look at that top box on the left. I see a division symbol or put into equal groups. That verb, the division symbol, is to divide. So I'm going to write divide in that box. Then at the top right, I see the multiplication symbol or repeated addition. I'm going to put the verb multiply in that box. And as we write our words in the box, you can cross them off from the word bank. Notice the words I have left. I have dividend, divisor, product, and quotient. So if we look at this multiplication fact, 4 times 1 equals 4. The product is the answer, 4. And both of the numbers I multiply are factors. That is not a word in the word bank, so we're not going to worry about that. But remember, factors make products. An easy way to remember this is factories make products. All right, last box, bottom right, I have 32 divided by 4 equals 8. The words I have left in my word bank are dividend, divisor, and quotient. I know quotient is the answer to a division problem, so I'm going to write that in. And then the number that I start with, the one I divide up, is going to be my dividend, and the one that I divide by is my divisor. So 32 is our dividend, and 4 is our divisor. All right, now that we have some common language for division and multiplication, let's complete these sentences with the rest of the vocabulary. Number 1 says a blank is a number that is less than 0. That would be a negative number. I'm going to write the negative symbol. You can write in the word negative number if you would like. Second blank, A is a number greater than 0. That's going to be a positive number. So negative is less than 0, positive is greater than 0. All right, number 2, division problems have 3 parts. The part you want to divide into groups is called the dividend. That was the red one up there. The number that's divided into another number, or the number you divide by, is called the divisor. And the answer to a division problem is called the quotient. All right, last one, blank are whole numbers and their opposites. Remember the definition of integers from chapter 1 was positive and negative whole numbers, and opposites are positive and negative. So integers are whole numbers and their opposites. All right, so 2.1 focuses on multiplying integers. We're going to model this two ways, with a number line and then with positive, negative, the red, yellow sided coins. And we're also going to use the definition of multiplication, which is repeated addition. So when we multiply, or when we model multiplication, we're going to model it as repeated addition. All right, let's look at part A. Henry made 3 withdrawals of $2 each from his savings account. What was the change in his balance? So withdrawals would be negative. He made 3 withdrawals of 2. So we're going to represent this as 3 times negative 2. To graph negative 2, you would start at 0 and move 2 units to the left. 3 times negative 2 means we're going to do that 3 times. So we're going to do negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2. So we start at 0 right here, and then we move negative 2, negative 2, negative 2. 3 times. The result is negative 6. So the change in Henry's balance was negative $6. All right, part B. Lisa plays a video game in which she loses points. She loses 3 points 2 times. What is her score? Well, she lost 3 points, so we're going to represent that as negative 3. And she did that 2 times, so we're going to model it with 2 times negative 3. 2 times negative 3 means negative 3 plus negative 3. Did that 2 times. We're going to show this on the number line. So we're going to start at 0. We're going to move negative 3, and then another negative 3. So that was negative 3, negative 3. And her final score was negative 6. All right, let's reflect on this a little. What do you notice about the product of 2 integers with different signs? So here I had a positive and a negative as factors. Both times the product was negative. So one thing I would like you to write in your notes is a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. A positive number times a negative number will always have a negative product. All right, so the other way we're going to model integer multiplication is by using counters, those red and yellow chips. And the example that we're going to work on is a negative times a negative. So this one has multiple steps because even though we're finding negative 3 times negative 4, we're going to start with positive 3 groups of negative 4 and then take an extra step to find its opposite. We'll reflect at the end on why a negative times a negative is going to be the opposite. But let's figure it out first. So step 1, use negative counters to model 3 groups of negative 4. So remember the red side is the negative side. So each of these are a group of negative 4. So I have 3 groups of negative 4. If I count how many negative chips there are there, that's going to total negative 12. And now we're going to have the same model to find the opposite. So I found positive 3 groups of negative 4, but I know I started with negative 3. So now the opposite of that is going to be positive 12. So if we translate that into a mathematical expression, that's a fancy word for saying let's write out the numbers. Negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. The product of negative 3 and negative 4 is positive 12. So let's reflect on this. What do you notice about the sign of the product of 2 negative integers? This is an important thing to write in your notes. A negative times a negative is always going to equal a positive. It's a little hard to take a negative group of a negative number, but one way I like to remember this is in football, if the other team is represented with a negative, the other team loses points, so the negative thing happens to the negative team, it's a positive thing for you. So negative times a negative is positive. Another phrase that was used to teach me this is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. All right, so let's practice this a little bit. Example 1, we have part A. We're multiplying 13 by negative 3. So the first step is to determine the sign. I have positive 13 and negative 3. Since it's a positive and a negative, the product will be negative. So now I need to find the product of 13 and 3, which is 39. And now I know that my answer is negative. So my final answer is going to be negative 39. Positive 13 times negative 3 is negative 39. All right, part B, I have negative 5 times negative 8. A negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So then I find the product of 5 times 8, which is 40. And I know my final answer is positive, so the final answer is positive 40. All right, last one, I have negative 10 times 0. One of the factors is 0. If you multiply by 0, your answer is always 0. All right, your turn. Pause the video, see if you can do numbers 4 through 9 all by yourself. Play it to see if you got it right. All right, your homework today is going to be numbers 1 through 17 odd. So you're going to do 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and 17. Email me if you need any help.